Jared here with carbuzz.com, and I'm going to show you everything that you need to know about the 2022 Honda Civic Si if you're looking to purchase one. Now, we have a full driving review of the Civic Si over on our channel, so this is going to be a stationary walk around that covers all of the important details that you should know about this car, but be sure to check out the review over on our channel. We're going to start this video by talking about the styling on this new 11th generation Civic model, a lot more toned down from the previous generation style. I liked the 10th generation Civic. I think a lot of people thought the styling was a little too wacky, a little too kooky. A lot of people don't love this car's front end because it has kind of like a big overgrown forehead area here. I happen to think it looks fine. We've got these wider, more simplistic headlights that I think look pretty good. And then we've got the red SI logo to let us know that we have the sportier SI. And for those of you that don't know, SI stands for Sport Injection. The SI came around right at about the time Honda started added fuel injection to a lot of its cars, so that's where that nameplate comes from. I should mention that the Canadian version of the SI, obviously we don't get it here, it's pretty similar, but you get parking sensors here in the front bumper, and you also get fog lights. Our Honda Civics in America, the SI version, does not get those. Just these black blanks here where the fog lights would be. So a little bit weird, but when I tell you the price of this car later in the video, you'll start to understand why that is. Now we've got these black 18-inch wheels. These are the only wheels available standard on the SI, but you can option these other ones from Honda. I think these look fine. The only option available besides the extra wheels, which I think are more of a dealer accessory, are summer tires, which we have. They're $200. So if you live in a warm weather climate, definitely get the summer tires. This color, if you're curious, is called Orange Fury. I love it. I think it looks great. I've gotten a ton of compliments on it. Now, this new Civic is a little bit longer in length from the last generation model, which is going to pay dividends for rear space, which is quite nice. And we've got sort of a more coupe-like roofline here with this sloping C-pillar. The thing that Honda did with this 11th generation car is make the sedan and the hatch look a little bit more similar. You can really only tell the difference here at the back, where the hatch has sort of a different back end, but the two look much more similar than they did in the 10th generation. And of course, the two-door coupe is gone. You can no longer buy that. Nobody really wanted it anyway. Now here at the back, we've got our Civic logo. We've got another SI badge. We've got a black spoiler letting people know that this Civic is just a little bit sportier. And as I mentioned, you can only get the SI as a sedan. We've got a pretty decently sized trunk in here. We've got pretty basic latches here, no hydraulic struts or anything like that. And you can pull these tabs to fold down into the second row. You can fold down those seats as well, but this is not as practical as the hatchback model. Now, if you do want a sort of sporty Civic with a hatch, you're gonna have to wait for the Type R, which will cost at least $35,000, $36,000, which is a lot more than this. Or you can actually step down to the base Civic, which has the same engine as this, but a little bit less powerful, and you don't get some of the other sporty upgrades to the suspension and the wheels and the appearance and stuff like that, and the engine isn't as powerful. So now I'm going to show you the back seats, which are a little bit plain, so let's go ahead and zoom in on those. You can see it's a boring black seat. Don't worry, the seats up front are a lot more interesting here, although there is a lot of leg room, as I mentioned, so I'm going to go ahead and hop on in. You can see I have plenty of space here. Interestingly, I don't have a map pocket here on this seat, but there is one over here on the passenger seat. You know, just cost cutting, basically. And another thing, I mentioned the Canadian Civic Si has that this one doesn't, is heated seats here in the rear. You also get heated front seats on the Canadian car. We don't get either of those things here on our American Civic, you know, which is a little bit weird and just shows how Canada gets a little bit of a better car than we do. So now's the time where I'm going to show you the front. So I'm going to go ahead and take over the camera duties and show you a first-person view of what's up front, starting with the seats, because the Civic Si has always had really cool seats, and this 11th generation model has them as well. You can see we've got this red finish in the middle with the SI logo. We've got some red stitching here on the outer parts. These seats are very heavily bolstered, more so than what you're gonna get on a standard Civic. They look great. Honda actually raised the base padding here by about ½ an inch. They say that's gonna make it a little bit more comfortable for you to drive this on long distances. These are manual seats. You can't get power seats on a Civic Si. So this is actually a little bit cheaper than a Civic Touring, which has a power seat here and leather and some other stuff. So the Civic Si might be the sportiest non-Type R Civic, but it is not the most expensive. We also have some nice metal pedals. Of course, that is sporty. We've got our trunk release here on the door. And then we've got a little bit more red here on the door with some more red accenting. I will say this interior is quite nice. There are some areas where it feels a little bit cheap, like here on the door card, but this car is only $27,300, and then it's $200 extra if you want the summer tires. So it is very affordable, and just wait until you see all of the features that you get in here. So let's go ahead and step on in fully so I can show you the cabin here. We've got a push to start. It starts white, and then you go ahead and push it up and it glows red, which is quite nice. I'm gonna go ahead and straighten out the wheel here. So we've got a lot of cheaper materials in certain spots, but this dash is actually quite soft, and we have nice materials here for the climate controls. It's this nice knurled metallic plastic that looks quite nice, and we also have this really nice leather here on the steering wheel with some red stitching. Honda Sensing comes standard here, so you get lane keep assist that works really well. You get adaptive cruise, although it won't work in stop and go traffic because the Si only comes with a 6-speed manual transmission, so that wouldn't really work that well. And we do have blind spot monitoring as well, so lots of standard safety tech. We've got single zone automatic climate control. The Canadian version gets dual zones. That's something else we don't get on the American Si. I mentioned the heated front seats as well. And then we have this little cubby area. This is a wireless charger on the Canadian Si. So a little bit weird that America didn't get some of those options. But the single zone climate control is fine. As I mentioned, these buttons here are very nicely finished, and it's very simple and easy to use. We also have a very simple and easy to use 9-inch touchscreen. This comes standard on the Civic Si. It works very well. You get wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. Honda learned its mistake and has now put a volume knob so you can quickly raise and lower the audio. And we also have a tuning dial. It's not a dial, but it is a button back and forth, so I'm happy to have that as well. I think this screen works really well. However, I was driving this a day or two ago, and the screen went completely black and restarted on me. That was a little bit annoying, but it has not happened since. And on this new version of Honda's infotainment system, you can see we have this smart ribbon down here. So this is going to take functions that you use frequently automatically. So FM radio, Bluetooth audio. This is where your CarPlay would be if I had that enabled, which I currently don't. It's going to remember what you use a lot and keep those down here at the bottom for quick and easy access. I like that. That is really smart. Now, final thing that's a little bit different here on our American Si versus one that you would get in Canada that I'm a little disappointed about is that we don't get a fully digital instrument cluster, which you can get on some of this car's rivals. You'll notice that the speedometer here is an actual needle, but the tachometer over here is digital. So I can use this little scrolly knob here to change what's on it. So right now I have a boost gauge. I can hit the home button. I can have it show my navigation, which is quite nice. Even when you're using CarPlay, it will actually give you like the turn-by-turn in there, which is a really nice function. I usually have it just showing, you can have it be like a G meter, which I'm not really going to use, a stopwatch, kind of same thing there. But I usually have it just showing my like fuel economy and stuff like that, range and fuel, because it's just convenient. On the Canadian Si, you can change the different drive modes and it'll change up what this gauge cluster looks like because it is fully digital. Now we do have drive modes here, the same ones that you'll get on the Canadian one here. So there's really only 3. So you have your normal mode, sport mode, and then individual, which really just lets you customize only 2 things. You can make the engine sport or normal, and you can make the steering sport or normal, so it gets a little bit heavier when it is in that sport mode. Now I gotta talk about this 6-speed manual transmission. It's the only transmission option that you can get here in the Si. Honda makes such a nice manual transmission. I love the gear selector. So this shifter looks a little bit more like the one you would get in the Type R, whereas the Si used to have more of a round knob. The shift action is great. It's 10% shorter than it was in the previous generation model. I love rowing through the gears. You actually can't get it into 5th when you're parked. It's a lockout function because that's where reverse is as well. One thing I don't love is this electric handbrake. You have to put your foot on the brake and then you just raise this or lower it to turn that on and off. It's a little bit clunky if you're moving this around a lot for shooting. but it's not that bad, I guess. This is your stop start defeat. I couldn't hit this button enough. I don't love the stop start on this car. I explained that a little bit more in the video. And this is your brake hold function. This is one benefit of having an electronic parking brake like this, is that you can hit brake hold and then you don't have to sit there with your foot on the clutch. When you're on like a hill, you can just take off smoothly without the car rolling back. Now, they've changed up the cup holder configuration quite a lot from the last generation Civic, which had this very deep cup holder design that was very configurable. I really like that, so I'm not as big of a fan of this. If you have something a little bit bigger than my Yeti, it's a little bit annoying with the shifter, but if you put it here in the back, I don't find it too bad. And then we have this padded armrest here with a little bit of storage. And one final thing I should mention about the SI, or I guess two things, is we do get a standard sunroof, and for the first time ever on an SI, we get an upgraded audio system, in this case, a Bose unit. The Civic has never had an upgraded stereo on the SI model, so that is quite nice. And I'm gonna wrap up by talking to you a little bit about the performance. So I'm gonna get my camera guy, Austin, back here as I pop open the hood right there. Let's pull it open, because performance is important for when you buy an SI. This is a sporty car, so you wanna know what's under the hood. So just like the last generation SI, the 10th gen, we have a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It's not really VTEC in the traditional sense like Honda used to do on its naturally aspirated motors, but the turbocharging means that you get much better torque. It's 192 pound-feet of torque, which is quite nice. And Honda retuned this engine so it now delivers power much lower in the rev range, and it doesn't die off at the top like the last generation Civic used to do. There is one issue though. So this engine produces 200 horsepower. Do you know the problem yet? If you're a Honda fan, you probably do already. The last Civic produced 205 horsepower. They actually decreased it. I know, it's a little bit disappointing, but when I say that the drivability is better on this new one, I really do mean it. It's not a very fast car. It's quick. It's not gonna win too many drag races, but if you want a faster version of the Civic, remember, the Type R will be here later this year. So I really hope you've enjoyed that deep dive on the 2022 Honda Civic SI. For more videos like this, be sure to like, subscribe, smash that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos, and be sure to check out carbuzz.com to read more about the 2022 Honda Civic SI. I'll see you next time.